Hello friends, welcome back. Carrying forward with the discussion we have been dwelling upon in terms of ethics as a strategy and definitely a long term strategy perspective which we are carrying forward with reference to ethics here. Ethics can have several steps included as far as following ethics goes, and those can be also used as strategic steps, or ethics can have an imbibed relationship, a deep relationship with every strategic step which we are choosing or which we would choose in terms of cost and differentiation, focus markets and broad markets and so on at the phase of our growth or stability or even turnaround. So, with that kind of a reference, now going ahead, let us build up an argument around what specifically many companies are trying to do, and you would realize that corporate social responsibility has in itself become a strategic tool, a long term strategy in itself for many organizations, and their CSR efforts, which are becoming prominent day by day, have gained confidence of the society for them and brought in several people closer to them or society closer to them, supporting them in different kinds of ways, and some of the direct ways are associated with becoming their partners or human resource and customers at large. Titan, which we used as an example earlier, when they initiated their factory in Hosur, Tamil Nadu, there they focused upon that their ethical standards and benchmarks should be known to people. Why are they there for? What they would be doing for the society around them, and that was the initiation of a relationship of that place with Titan. And later on, several people they studied, were supported by Titan, and they qualified to join Titan as their employees, gaining a very large loyal employee base for Titan Industries. And there is a whole story of how they gained loyal customers for themselves in due course of time, and Titan is an exceptional growth story in India in terms of wristwatches specifically. Just to mention here that if we will go by industry life cycle or industry, how that wristwatch industry is doing globally. So, in terms of substitutions and alternatives, and especially alternatives, many of us including me do not wear wristwatches so often, but then many a times without regularly wearing wristwatches, we purchase wristwatches, we gift wristwatches. And Titan, despite of the fact that industry had several challenges in terms of wristwatch industry was not overall very promising at that time when Titan they entered into the fray and they started focusing upon the market growth, but despite of all, Titan grew, and their ethical standards, ethical benchmarks and following ethics as a strategy is one of the most important reasons involved in their growth story, as I can perceive from understanding the whole situation. Does business ethics makes economic sense? Yes, it does, and that is what I was just trying to submit in front of you. This is one of the most important papers written by Professor Amartya Sen. Does business ethics make economic sense? In the Ethics of Business in a Global Economy, published by Springer, Netherlands. And he talks about the butcher, brewer, baker discussion is all about motivation for exchange, but Adam Smith was deeply concerned also with production as well as distribution. And he talks about in this paper, how ethics makes business sense. It is necessary to look at the behavioral patterns that could sustain a flourishing system of mutually profitable exchanges. And he has quoted Adam Smith extensively as far as along with other thinkers in this paper. The positive role of intelligent self-seeking in motivating exchange has to be supplemented by motivational demands of production and distribution and the systematic demands on the organization of the economy. And he elaborates how following ethics makes economic sense. I am taking clue from that paper to submit in front of you that it can be followed as a strategy also, because if something makes economic sense, it can be utilized as a strategy, and that is the argument here. Developing ethics in employees, and here we are quoting Smith and Kochke, building an ethical company, create an organization that helps employees behave more honorably, published by Harvard Business Review. People do not enter the workforce with a fixed moral character. Employees can nurture or neglect their skills and abilities over time. Complacency may come in. They can learn to be more or less ethical. Ethical learning is a lifelong process and it does not happen by rote. To do this, don't do that, or do this, don't do that. Employers should foster an environment that encourages workers to become more ethical in long run by practicing moral reflection, and this is the key which authors talk about. The benefits of ethical organizations are well documented, as the authors say. They say that such organizations are more attractive than others to employees, and they have a basis to suggest that. They would have seen large data on this, and we can also look at that. You can just go to Statista and focus upon employee retention, employee growth, and those kind of graphs would be there. Second point which authors add are that these organizations are less likely to become embroiled in scandals also, and we have already talked about direct costs and litigation costs in my earlier discussion. And then these organizations are more likely to be rewarded by investors who increasingly focus on good governance and strong cultures as source of sustainable value creation. An individual would benefit through long and sustained returns, and we all understand that long and sustained returns, they are given to us by largely the organizations which would not dip down or fluctuate, and we know that ethics is the basis of non-fluctuation of organizations despite of environmental pressures. That is the argument, and that is what authors are supporting through their research and paper, and that is why we support these creative arguments with researches conducted by intelligent authors published in good publications, and the sources are given to you. Then there is another addition to our argument through another paper which talks about strategy and virtue, developing strategy as practiced through virtue ethics strategic organization, Sokas H 2018. How is practical wisdom achieved? This expression supports our argument here for thinking about ethics as a strategy. The author says that it is good that good action cannot be codified. However, the moral virtues are acquired through habituation. One learns under the guidance of more experienced others. This is a bit which we have taken. You can read the complete paper, and the context we have tried to build up is from the core of the paper itself. So, this moral virtues are acquired through habituation. One learns under the guidance of more experienced others when and how to feel courage, feel fear, pride, humility, and so on, and to act accordingly. When should we have let those feelings come in and act accordingly? Practically wise choices are made not by following abstract rules, but by building capacities for practically wise actions. By not following abstract rules, but by building capacities for practically wise actions, by building one's character. Character is associated with doing the right things, doing things right. Building one's character is associated with integrity, and that is what authors add to this. They say, by building one's character through habituation in the context of community and with the help of more experienced others, individuals inductively learn to build an intuitive sense of when and in what form they should experience certain emotions and how to handle particular situations. When competition is pressing, should we be answering the competition with whatever means? So, that is where the choices are. Means are important as the ends, and that is what the argument is. And strategy definitely has means in terms of strategic steps. So, if ethics is a strategy, then means would be ethical. Those means would justify the ends. Very simple argument. We can justify this argument with the help of several live examples which we have been looking at since the early stages of this course. So, ethics as a core component in business strategy, and the example is Tata Group. They have a code of conduct. The Tata Group's code of conduct includes integrity, transparency, fairness and respect. Fundamental core values which are universal largely: integrity, unamputated spirit, the perspective wherein we have lot of integrity in terms of doing whatever we do, transparency. We have talked about these things earlier as well when we were referring to values and culture. Corporate social responsibility. I will be building up this argument further on focused on this specific term, corporate social responsibility, just after this. So, corporate social responsibility, wherein Tata Group's CSR activities are related to education, livelihoods and skill development, rural development, water and sanitation, healthcare and strengthening services. Look into the story of Tata Steels. I talked about that earlier. I just mentioned about Titan watches, Titan Industries. Look into several other organizations they developed. Look into the Amul story. Look into LIC story for that matter. Look into several other stories India is proud of and the whole world is proud of, and that is what we are talking of in terms of longevity of the life of an organization without so many dips which are actually directed by the environmental forces, and even if the dips have come, the consistency which they have maintained in due course of time. Ethical leadership. Founder Jamshedji Tata prioritized integrity, honesty and accountability in their actions and decisions, which are still being followed as it is. Consistency in following ethical standards and benchmarks is more important as compared to the choice of ethics as a strategy, and this is an addition to our discussion. Consistency in following those benchmarks so becomes more important when we are following ethics as a strategy. Corporate governance. The company practices highest standards of corporate governance through transparency in business ethics, accountability to its customers, government and others. And you see, this case study has been talked about by many B schools around the world, best of the B schools and best of the social sciences institutions, and businesses have taken clue from this organization and they have augmented their policies and plans according to the benchmarks which Tatas have been following in due course of time. Business practices. The company emphasizes responsible business conduct including ethical sourcing, fair labor practices and environmental custodianship. Just go to their websites and you would realize what I am talking about. Let us look at the results. Revenue of Tata Group from financial year 1996 to 2023. Despite of several kinds of dips which they had to face in terms of sharp technological changes which the industries were going through, and they had to somehow collate with those kind of technological changes, wherein several kinds of restructuring exercises were being followed by Tata Group at that time, and they were in many cases not ready to adapt those kind of changes so easily. We will go into those kind of things and discussions later on as well, but then still they passed on through those phases and they kept on growing. And you see, when you talk of in billion US dollars, and if you look at financial year 1996, it was around 6 billion US dollars revenue of Tata Group, growing to 150 billion US dollars in 2023. It's not even sort of 30 years, 3 decades or so. Less than 3 decades, it's multifold as far as the whole situation goes. You may say that market forces supported them, but then they actually lifted themselves up to as far as taking advantage of those market forces and the support of those market forces goes. Brand value of Tatas 2016 to 2023, from 13.71 billion US dollars to 26.4 billion US dollars in almost 8 odd years. It's almost double. Less than a decade, your brand value is getting doubled. That means your stockholders, stakeholders, customers, value chain partners, they are showing deep trust in you, and that is precisely what we are talking about as far as ethics as strategy goes. Another important story in Indian business scenario which and the organization I admire, Wipro. For over 75 years, Wipro has operated as a purpose-driven company with an unwavering commitment to their customers and communities. Wipro's founder, chairman Azim Premji believed that economic value is sustainable only if created on a foundation of ethics and responsibility. This he said through the methodologies, the strategic steps they follow, the vision he had for his organization, and the organization is nurturing that vision, following strategic steps to reach to that vision, and also through experience, which he experienced in due course of time. He said that economic value is sustainable only if created on the foundation of ethics and responsibility. That means ethics as strategy. Wipro is certified as a great place to work in India for 2022, ranked among top 50 India's best companies to work for in 2022. Wipro is included in 2022 Bloomberg Gender Equality Index also. There are some of the important ingredients of how ethical you are in terms of your outlay, steps, and these are human resource policies which would lead to customer gain in due course of time, would strengthen human resource retention, and so on. And again, revenue for Wipro Limited from financial year 2015 to 2023 in billion Indian rupees, and it's almost, I think, more than double or around double. You see, this is what the important element is. Although let us say industry is growing, but then if you are capitalizing upon that industrial opportunity or the market opportunity, that means you were ready for that. How were you ready for that? Because you had a strong force with you and strong number of, growing number of customers who have been loyal to you and they are becoming your brand ambassadors and so on. That is, and I am repeatedly emphasizing upon this fact, creating a close relationship, that ethics as a dependent variable and results as independent variables. Ethics as strategy resulting into achievement of profitability and achievement of objectives which definitely achieve mission and then subsequently vision. Now, current ethics based strategies, here we are referring to Husted and Allen. Is it ethical to use ethics as strategy? And this is precisely the point where I wanted you to reach. This is a specific paper in Journal of Business Ethics, a very prominent publication doing good in terms of papers focused on business ethics, and the title is specifically related to the subject area which we are discussing. Is it ethical to use ethics as strategy? Corporate social responsibility and responsiveness, the paper talks about is that CSR spoke of what obligations corporations should fulfill in order to improve their social environment. Stakeholder strategies. In this ethical practice, stakeholders are seen as reflecting values and ethical principles. They would reflect the values which you would inculcate in whole of the process. It includes firms' plan to allocate resources in order to achieve long-term social objectives and create a competitive advantage. Loyalty of your value chain partners and customers is the biggest competitive advantage any organization can have, and if you have that advantage, whatever the competition does might not affect you the way if you are not having that loyalty associated with you. Then there is an element of corporate citizenship which the authors talk about. They say that the concept of corporate citizenship is closely related to corporate social responsibility and responsiveness. These latter concepts emerged from the sociological literatures, while the concept of citizenship came from the political science literature. It tends to focus not only on the legal responsibilities of the corporation, but also on those actions that aim to enhance the quality of community life through active, participative, organized involvement. Valuing the value chain would bring in value to the business. We would keep on discussing those kind of elements in due course of time. Now, let me focus on CSR and build a story around that, this specifically this element, how it contributes towards business growth and achievement of the vision. It refers to a company's duty to operate in an honorable manner, ethical standards, provide good working conditions for employees, encourage workforce diversity, be a good steward of the environment, and actively work to better the quality of life in local communities where it operates and in society at large. Again, there are several examples, and 3 or 4 I have been reiterating: Jamshedpur, Tata Steels, Hosur, Titan Watches, Amul, Gujarat, and several others, Hero Motors, and several other places which are known by the organizations, by the names of the organizations, because the places have been developed, the people have been developed, and they have contributed into their lives, and they have strengthened the complete structure they belong to, the countries they belong to. The concept of CSR and good corporate citizenship, and again we are referring to Kellett, Thompson, Strickland and Gamble, Crafting and Executing Strategy. Socially responsible business behavior is that a company should balance strategic actions to benefit shareholders against the duty to be a good corporate citizen. Company managers should display a social conscience in operating the business and specifically take into account how management decisions and company actions affect the well-being of employees, local communities, the environment and society at large. And you would realize in our future discussions that today focusing upon environmental sustainability is one of the prime most responsibilities of organizations, and it is actually being incorporated in the accounting principles also some or the other way, accounting reporting standards for that matter. And you see, that is actually gaining them the confidence of the society and customers, and people are becoming more aware and they are supporting such kind of organizations. And that is why these lines they specifically refer to, authors talk about social conscience. Now these are 5 components of CSR, corporate social responsibility. Actions to ensure that the company operates honorably and ethically. Specific actions and policies have to be defined. Actions to support philanthropy, participate in community service and better the quality of life worldwide. Actions to protect and sustain the environment. Actions to promote workforce diversity. Actions to enhance employee well-being and make the company a great place to work. Up till now the story is that CSR is incorporated as an ethical strategic step to gain the confidence of the society and the customers at large. But what if whole of our business is oriented as if it is CSR? Whole of our business is directed towards the benefit of the society. CSR is ingrained in our business model. What if we do that? It will definitely make more economic sense. I will be talking about that very briefly, and then I will be building up a story around that when we will be talking about strategy execution later on. CSR initiatives undertaken by companies are directed at improving the company's triple bottom line: economic, social and environmental, and that is precisely what I am referring to, that what if we incorporate CSR as an economic activity completely within the organizational structure. The goal is for a company to succeed simultaneously in all 3 dimensions. The 3 dimensions of performance are referred in terms of 3 pillars of people, planet and profit. The term people refers to the various social initiatives that make up CSR strategies such as corporate giving, community involvement, company efforts to improve the lives of its internal and external stakeholders. Planet refers to a firm's ecological impact and environmental practices, which is a very important thing for all the organizations to do. The term profit has a broader meaning with respect to triple bottom line than it does otherwise. Profit by any means would not justify itself at the end of the day, because it would not bring in prosperity and opulence for everyone involved in the process. It encompasses not only the profit a firm earns for its shareholders, but also the economic impact the company has on society more generally in terms of overall value that it creates and overall cost that it imposes on society. You see, people, planet, profit. The element of planet is now a part of, as I said, business processes also, and that is how this triple bottom line is structured. Goal is equal to excellence in all 3 performance dimensions. If you will focus upon that, then the whole situation would rise. That is what authors wants us to think about. And now this is an example, a very important example which justifies the argument here. The CSR at SBI aims to integrate economic, environmental and social objectives to implement national priorities for social development. The aim of CSR policy in SBI, we have taken this from SBI's sources. The aim of CSR policy in SBI is to participate in activities that benefit community development, social responsibility and environmental sustainability, and reach out to socially and economically disadvantaged sections of society. That is what they are trying to do. Most CSR activities are undertaken in rural and urban slums when the downtrodden people live and need help in medical, education, food and shelter amongst others. In the process, they are gaining confidence of those people, and those people definitely would become their depositors and investors someday. Total CSR budget for the financial year 2022 is 204.10 crores. Allocation to SBI Foundation is 102.56 crores, and CSR expenditure by your bank through circles and departments, as SBI says, by your bank, 101.54 crores. SBI has undertaken various activities to fight against COVID-19 through SBI Foundation, which did exceptionally well, supporting women empowerment activities, supporting education, tribal welfare, animal welfare. Your bank has supporting sports and athletes, employee volunteer, SBI Children's Welfare Fund, supporting healthcare welfare activities for the persons with disabilities, Swachh Bharat environment protection and sanitation. And this is what, the whole of the situation is described, CSR spend at SBI sector wise. And these are CSR initiatives, some of the initiatives which SBI has taken in due course of time. 380 CSR activities undertaken, in a particular period of time. 250 NGOs are involved. 1,97,551 people benefited, and 3,886 villages covered pan India. And the direct resultant is the loyalty of the value chain partners and customers at large. But the question here is, and I wish this thought to be ingrained in you, I would be dwelling upon this thought in due course of time when I would be talking about how CSR approach can be an integral part of the strategic vision that organization may have. That is, the business is altogether CSR oriented as far as the organization goes, not just gaining customer loyalty or doing it out of duty or following ethical standards only. What if the complete system is based on corporate social responsibility? There are many organizations which may think that way, which are thinking that way. We have several examples here that we are conceiving a model which is for the benefit of all our stakeholders. We have been talking about Narayan Hrudayalaya, we have been talking about Amul, we have been talking about Arvind Eye Care, we have been talking about Patanjali, we have been talking about Jaipur Foot, we have been talking about several kinds of organizations which are prosperous, bringing in opulence for all, prosperity for all, and their complete business model is based on social responsibility. Try to think this way, and from now onwards, try and think in terms of differentiating CSR supporting organizations in strategic terms and CSR being adapted as a business model to be driven as a strategy all through, and CSR being lived upon as strategy to reach the vision of the organization. Would it make more sense? Would it make larger difference to the organizational growth? We will talk about that. I will be coming up with lots of insights and build upon these arguments towards very precise strategic steps and models in due course of time. Till then, goodbye.